label for those two emotions that you've got.
So which label would you prefer to have, guys?
Yeah.
Think about that, right?
Yeah.
Or have none of them. Because you're not in this world, right?
Yeah.
And change your thinking into a world where if things don't work well, learn from it, adjust, move on, right? And you will continually improve, develop, and grow yourself, your team, your business. Yeah. Come on, who doesn't want to be there? Who doesn't want to be in that world? Come on.
Well, if they're enabled to be. So if you're middle management and your management is in this blame culture, you've almost got to be the person who's deflecting that and enabling your team to thrive below you. But you're having to deal with this blame culture and work out how you can manage that. And there are ways of managing it, because we learned how to manage it.
But you and I have talked about that on here before, Neil, right? There's two other words that came in here. One of them was about the courage to step up and take that and don't transfer to your team what you're getting placed upon you.
Yeah.
And the other one is acting as the buffer. You need to absorb that and don't let it get through. Now, that ain't easy, right? But no one said leadership was easy.
So there's an episode we should do on this, actually, on upward management. I think because I spend a lot of time when I'm coaching people on upward management, whether it's upward management to a level of directors or to investors or to owners of businesses or whatever it is.
Yeah,
it's probably a whole episode on how to do upward management.
Yeah.
So I think what we've done is we've said, look, there's a problem here. The blame culture environment damages your business, damages your employees, damages your productivity. It's not good for anyone.
Yep.
So then what do you do about it? And what would your advice be to someone if they wanted to try and change that in their business?
The first thing I would say is the topic of what the blame is the thing you're trying to fix. So think about the problem that you were trying to address. Don't think about who caused the problem. And that's got to be your point of focus. So the difference is between, is it an individual or is it a subject or a topic or an item? That would be the number one for me. What is it we're trying to fix? What is it we're trying to create? What is it we're trying to do? That should be your focus.
So focus on the solution.
Yeah.
And how you might address the solution rather than how you got to the place you're at.
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong in working out that something went wrong, so long as you're not trying to hold someone accountable for the fact it went wrong. I think we talked in the prep, you were talking about Formula One, right? And someone didn't. So look, the pit didn't turn this round as fast as they should have done. We're not looking to identify who the person was. We're trying to identify what it was. So as you said in the prep example, the gun didn't work on the wheel. Right. Okay. We're not trying to find out who was responsible for that gun, but why didn't that gun work? That's what's important.
Yeah. Right? So you've got to, so they talk about it when I read about this earlier, they talk about work on the system and the process.
Yeah.
Not looking to blame individuals in the process. And I think that's really important. So, okay, I've got that. So focus on the system, the process, and how you might make that better. What else would you suggest?
If you wanted to make this positive and not negative, realize there's an opportunity for learning, development, and growth. Actually turn it on its head and go, rather than us having a failure, we've got a learning opportunity.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And if you exercise that learning opportunity, do you not come off smarter and better than you were before?
So then it's how do you create that culture? So when something goes wrong, that you then, okay, team, great, fantastic, well done to Joe. We've now got a learning opportunity here, guys. What can we do? So I guess it's how do you go from let's blame Joe to how can we learn from the failure in the process he's uncovered?
Do you know, I'm not an expert in it, right? But in agile methodologies, one of the things they teach is for you to continually ask, what could I have done better? What could I have done better? But then for you also to look at the team and say, what could we have done better as a team? Right? And again, don't come back to, in the team is actually Neil, Dave, and Albert. The one that screwed up was Dave. No, we're not looking at that. In the team, so I personally could have done this better. Mm-hmm. That would have given us a better outcome. But the team could have done this better. What can we do to make sure that happens next time?
And I think there's a couple of things to remember here. And there's a phrase that you used to use all the time, which I still use now, which was, no one wakes up in the morning and comes to work to screw up.
Yeah.
You know, everyone comes to work with the intention of, I want to do the best I can today.
Yeah. With
the resources I've got, the skills I've got, the capability I've got, or whatever it might be, I want to do the best I can today, in general, anyway. Yeah. And I think if a leader has the point of view that says, if something doesn't go right, how can I create a culture of what can we learn from that? How can I accept the fact that this person might not have had the skills they needed, or they might not have had the knowledge but actually one of the things that you need to do, and we've talked about this a lot, is people have got to know what good looks like.
Absolutely.
They've got to know that this is your expectation, because typically we are disappointed when our expectations aren't met. And so as a leader, if you're not helping people understand what good looks like, then guess what? You're going to be disappointed.
For those of you that don't know it, guys, that's one of Neil's favorite phrases, right? Because it absolutely brings you, it can stop meetings in their track when you ask what good look like and people stare each other around the room, right? It's a really, really important methodology to think about, guys. And it's such a simple question, but it's such a powerful one.
So there was a couple of examples that I looked at, and I've heard in interviews, and I actually saw David Coulthard presenting on stage at an event I was at. Mm-hmm. And so I just want to look at, so the New Zealand rugby team, one of the things they do, and it was their captain at the time, but he was talking about it, they sit down after every match in the room, and they go in the changing room, and they each are given feedback by their peers on what they saw and what they thought they could have done better. Mm-hmm. It might be, well, you were out of position here. I really needed you ahead of me, or when I had to tackle this guy, you could have filled in behind me. So they give feedback, and one of the key things about that is there's no opportunity to say, actually, no, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. I did do that, but I didn't do that because I was thinking this.
Yeah.
So you can't defend what you're hearing. You're just receiving feedback, and that's an opportunity to learn and make you better.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you ever run as a leader? Have you ever done that in a leadership capacity?
Yeah, probably more in a kind of root cause analysis. I mean, you and I worked on deals all the time, right? When we win the deal, there's nothing but celebration, right? When we lose the deal, what's the first thing that happens? Right?
Oh, yeah. No, why did you lose? But
why did we lose?
No one ever looks at the learning from that, or very rarely.
Yeah. So that was part of my world for many years, was the blame culture that if you've lost the deal, someone's going to get shot.
Yeah.
No, that is a crazy place to have been, right? So,
and in fact, actually thinking about it, the best learning we ever had was when we lost a major bank in the UK.
Yeah.
And I remember my part in that was I went and found the salesman who'd sold the deal against us.
Yeah.
And I brought him into the company and paid him as a consultant for a day to sit down and run workshops on how he beat us, to learn what we could learn from him. And we learned a hell of a lot in that process.
Yes, we did.
So that was a good example. And I think the other example, so you mentioned Formula One, right? The other example is that in Formula One, at the end of a race, whether they've won, lost, finished the race, not finished the race, they each review, they sit down, and before they travel, before they go out and party, they each review each department again, and they get feedback from every other department on what could you have done better.
Yeah.
So you've got to foster that culture of feedback to enable growth.
Which is interesting what you just said there, Neil. It's departments, right? So as an entity, they're talking to a different entity. So no one's taking it that personally down to an individual. It's entities sharing with each other to say, how can we jointly? So in a company, it's businesses and functions saying, how can we move the company forward? Yeah. That's such a powerful thinking.
Yeah.
Can you imagine creating that?
So what we've kind of established is blame culture is very painful. It's a horrible place to work. It's not good for the business. It's not good for the individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, there are lots of examples of where it doesn't work and it damages even people's lives.
Yeah.
And the way you fix that is some of the things that Albert and I have just been talking about. Is you focus on the process and the system, not on the individuals. And how can you make that better? How can you grow?
Yeah.
Openness and trust and communication and creating that feedback environment. And make sure people know what good looks like. So you're clear on that common goal, that common vision, and where each person fits in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a natural. Don't worry if you do feel like blaming someone. That's a natural human reaction.
Yeah. The only other thing I'd add in there, Neil, is everybody take responsibility for inputting to this. Don't sit on the sideline waiting for somebody else to comment. And if you do see a blame culture, it does take courage. I'm not sitting there with your job. I don't have your mortgage to pay, guys. And I know that it's a challenge that if you see that, if you jump in, it could cost you. But you need to gauge that. But by the way, you could be the one that changes everything happening in the room or in that scenario, because you could stop it. You could stop that rolling down the road and say, whoa, hang on, guys, we're focused in the wrong place here.
And I think the leadership of that, so for the leadership detectives, the clues in there are you've got to create the environment to enable that to happen.
Yes.
You've got to spot blame when it comes down to you, and you've got to spot blame when you're thinking it and feeling it, and you've got to stop blame within your teams, and you've got to create that openness, feedback, engagement, etc.
Here's an invitation, guys. Drop into the comments where you think a blame culture is positive and why. Be glad to hear it, because I can't think of it, right? But we might be missing something, Neil, because you and I are optimists, right? But we're realists as well. So if we're missing something, guys, please tell us. Yeah. Just another comment I'd like to make while I'm here. We're on this topic because we had a recommendation from one of our listeners. So thank you, guys, for keeping that coming forward. James Loftus, by the way. So, James, here's your credit. We've kept it till the end. So if you didn't watch the whole thing, you wouldn't have heard us say that, right? All credit to you, James, for putting that topic forward. Because when we first looked at it, we went, what do we think's here? And we suddenly realized it's such a great topic. And by the way, it exists in all of our lives. I dare someone to say it doesn't exist in their life.
Yeah. And it is a human emotion that we have to recognize we all have. It's just what we do with that emotion.
Yeah. And just a thank you to Neil here for doing the research, because I apologize, guys. I was a bit lazy and I didn't do any on this topic. So, Neil, thanks for doing that.
Hopefully there's a learning experience in there as well. And we'll have a conversation about that later. No, it's fine. And look, it's great to talk about this because it is an important topic and we want to help the leaders out there. So hopefully this will help you. And thanks for listening. Great to see you again, mate. Please subscribe, guys. I keep putting my thumbs down when I say subscribe. I mean, give us a thumbs up and subscribe. And see you in the next episode. Fantastic.